Hi folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead. So I have show notes today. Haven't had show notes in a while. I'm getting old. Sometimes I need notes to kind of keep me on track because I tend to kind of just get on a soapbox and start talking. So I wanted to hit some specific things today. Today I want to talk about do's and don'ts to bugging in. I talk about the difference between bugging in and bugging out often on this channel. And while bugging out has its place, it should never be the top of your list, the first thing that you do in your plan for, any type of emergency or SHTF. Again, it has its place, but it's always going to be a risk. It's always going to be dangerous to bug out. So your focus should be to first bug in, and then if things need to happen in a way that you have to bug out, then if they do happen in a way, then that's understandable. Bugging out is when your life is in an immediate threat. There's an immediate threat to your life and you have to leave the location that you're at, then that's understandable. But for most cases, you're going to be much better off to bug in. And so we're going to talk about do's and don'ts, and this is really more from a security perspective. Things to keep yourself safe, and that's where this list is today. All right, so let's start it off. Don't cook or heat your... Now, some of these things are going to be common sense for many of you, but you have to understand there's a lot of people that this isn't so much common sense for. Don't cook or heat without ventilation. And a lot of you are going to say, well, of course not. Maybe you have wood, stoves in your home and stuff, so you get that. But there are so many people that don't. Every year people die in their homes because it's usually in the wintertime. They've been running a stove or some type of heat source in the house, and it wasn't ventilated, and they died. They asphyxiated themselves. So don't do this. Make sure whatever fuel source that you're using to heat your home or to cook with, it's properly ventilated. And there's odds are you're not going to have the electricity to cook with or heat with. So it's going to have to be some type of fuel that you're burning. There are some options that are ventless, but even that you should have some type of window cracked or something so that you have airflow. And don't just think that a small little exhaust fan is going to be enough. You need to be able to vent that properly. Now, of course, there's always the risk, especially with wood, that if you're burning wood, you're going to, have smoke and a smell, and it's going to attract people. And so that's also something that you're going to have to really think about of how to do that. If that is your source for heat and for cooking, and there's people around. And you know what? Even if you live out in the woods, the smell of smoke carries for miles. And if people are hungry enough, or if they're freezing to death, and they smell that smoke, they're going to find where it's at. They're going to go looking for it because they think, well, that person may have food or can keep me warm. So make sure that you vent properly, and really give it some thought on how you're going to heat and cook, because you don't want to give away your location too easily. Another one, don't heat the whole house. In the wintertime, especially those of you that live in the colder regions, don't think that you need to heat the whole house. Work on just heating like one room at a time. I can think back when I was a kid, and I've done this myself, and during power outages, of hanging quilts up over doorways and just sticking to one room, maybe like the kitchen and living room if it's kind of open, or kitchen and dining room, and shutting off the rest of the house, and just living in that area. It doesn't take near as much to heat it. If there's several in your family, your body heat will add to the warmth, and it's a lot easier. Cover your windows. You need to cover your windows, make sure that there's no light getting outside, so that at night people can't see that there's someone in there. Aluminum foil, blankets, whatever you need to cover the windows, but also wood or something to cover the windows to protect you, not just from the light getting out, but from things getting in. And it's very common to use plywood. but that needs to be done on the inside of your house. Many of you have seen, or you may live in hurricane regions, and people will put plywood up over the windows before a hurricane, and that's fine for a hurricane because you're wanting to also protect the glass. But for security reasons, in a bug-in situation, you want that plywood on the inside. And there's a couple of reasons. Number one, you're able to remove it if you need to. If you had to get out, the house caught fire and you needed to remove it, you can remove it easier on the inside. And secondly, if someone shoots into the house or throws something in the house and it penetrates through that plywood, if the wood is on the inside, it's going to protect from flying glass coming in your house. Where if it's on the outside, the bullet goes through the wood, goes through the glass, and then you have glass shattering inside the house. And then have the materials bought ahead of time. Again, for those in the hurricane regions, and you've probably seen all the videos when there's hurricanes, there's always this frantic rush to go and buy, all this sheets of plywood. People be fighting over it. The prices will skyrocket. And then you have to put it up. Have that bought already ahead of time. Little by little, buy sheets of plywood, have them measure them, cut, and have them ready to just put on the windows, over your windows, holes drilled, all that kind of stuff. And you can store them in your garage or shed or something like that, and have them labeled, living room, front window, whatever. So that it moves quickly and you don't have to go purchase the stuff. And this is something that you can store for forever. As long as the plywood isn't getting wet, it's going to last forever in a garage or something. And you're not also paying jacked up prices going and buying. And you don't have to buy it all at once. I understand plywood isn't cheap anymore. It used to be, but it's not. But buy that ahead of time, a few sheets here and there, and have them already ready to go, the plan to put them up when you need to do that. Let the house look abandoned. Now, and I mean that from a ransacked perspective. Don't have piles of your garbage that you're using sitting around outside throwing out, because it's obvious, there's fresh garbage being tossed out, so there must be someone in there. You want to make the house look like no one's there. And this is, for a more serious SHTF, you could do things like just throw random stuff out in your front yard to make it look like it's been gone through, a busted up, clothes dresser. Let the yard grass grow and the weeds and everything. Make it look like someone's already been there and they've already ransacked the house. So there's probably nothing of value that we need to mess with. Have a way to treat your water. And I don't care if you're using a well. My recent video, I was talking about that. Even if you have a well, don't trust that your water in a big SHTF is going to be drinkable. Pollution can penetrate the groundwater and it can contaminate your well. And then if you're getting water from a public system, it may still be working. Most likely it'll eventually go down, but you may be able to get tap water for a while. But make sure you have a way to clean that. The Berkey water filters work great for families, but water filtration is something that, while it's said to get out bacterias and stuff, I've never been 100% trusting of that, especially if the water is really contaminated with sewage. So I would have something like a filtration, like Berkey's, and then also have Clorox bleach on hand to add a few drops. And you can find online how many drops you need to add per gallon. And I understand, I don't like drinking chlorine either, even a few drops of it, but it's better than the alternative. And that's something that you can stock up on, have a few gallons. It doesn't take much chlorine bleach to purify water, a few drops. So, if you have a few gallons of it, 3 or 4 or 5 gallons, which is cheap, keep that stuff in your garage or your shed or something, you'll be good to go. Same way with sewage and trash. Have a plan. You don't want to have your sewage, because your sewer could back up and not work. And even if it still works, you have to have a way to flush your toilets, and you may have a limited water supply, and you don't want to be using all your water flushing toilets. Composting the the human feces, I feel, is probably one of the best ways. You have to have some dry fiber material to dry it, because most people don't know this if you've not used composting toilets, and I have. The smell is in the moisture. Once you dry it out, there's hardly any smell in the dried feces. So you know, that's why you put, you know, like sawdust or, you know, wood chips, something like that, peat moss in it to dry it out. And if you have a good source of that, that's a good way to handle your excrement. As far as trash, you know, have plenty of trash bags. Trash bags are cheap. Get those big heavy duty ones, and that should be part of your preps, is to have, you know, several hundreds you know, trash bags, you know, several boxes of trash bags to put your trash in. You double bag it if necessary, and have a place, you know, out behind the shed or maybe in the shed or something that you can put that stuff and away from animals, away from disease, and away from people. They start seeing fresh garbage piling up, they're gonna, you know, notice that there's someone living there. Have an exit plan. You know, you still may have to bug out at some point. Something may happen and you do have to bug out of your home. And so have an exit plan. Don't board yourself up so much in the house that you can't get out. Have a couple of exits planned, and then have a rendezvous point, a place that everyone meets. I think my camera is doing some weird things, so I apologize for the video quality if that's showing through on your end. But on my end, my view screen, it looks like it's making some weird flashy stuff. But be ready to bug out. What if your house catches on fire? What if, you know, some group of people realize you're there and they're gonna, you know, penetrate your home and take over? You need to be ready to bug out. Have exits lined out, and have bug out bags ready to go if you're bugging in. Be cautious of going outside. That should be a given. And you know, this is true if you're out in the country. Just because you're way out in the woods doesn't mean there's not someone in the bushes waiting for you to come out. Have someone watch while you're out. There should be a schedule of an agreement that there'll be, you know, someone to watch. And as you exit, you know, if you have to go outside to do anything, someone's watching. Set and watch before you go out. Now, of course, a lot of this is going to be, you know, immediately after, when things are pretty bad. And I think after several weeks or months, things will start to kind of calm down. But in a real bad situation, you need to take these kinds of precautions, and watch how, you know, be careful of when you go outside and how often you go outside, and if there's anyone watching, and have lookout, someone to look out and watch your back as you're outside doing what you need to do. You know, these are just some common things that you need to kind of already be thinking about for if the time should come. Don't trust strangers. And this is true with anything after a big SHTF. People will do whatever they can to take advantage of you. If they're hungry, if their kids are hungry, their wife, their husband, they're injured or whatever, they will do anything to get to what you have if they find out that you have anything. And so be very cautious of people that you don't know, especially with noises and things that they might do to draw you out of your home. You know, they might create a ruse to get you to come out of your home. And sometimes you're gonna have to put your emotions and your feelings to the side. And, you know, I can't tell you what to do. That's gonna be up to each individual one. But, you know, they could do something as cruel as, you know, leave a baby out to where it's screaming and crying, and you have to make the decision of ignoring that because you have a pretty good idea someone's waiting for you to come out, or, you know, going out to take care of the baby and deal with what you may face. So, you know, it's very possible that people could do that. In really bad situations, people can get pretty cruel and mean and crazy. So we have to always be on guard for that. Don't trust your walls to protect you. A lot of people think, well, as long as I stay inside this building, you know, they can do whatever and I'll be safe. Most homes built today, I could break into them with a pocket knife. And I'm not talking coming through the front door, I'm talking coming through the walls. Many homes, especially ones that have, say, vinyl siding on them, the vinyl you can cut through, and behind the vinyl, a lot of times you either have a real thin sheet of, particle board, or you have some type of styrofoam insulation, and then you have the drywall. There's nothing there to really stop. Your house can provide cover, but it's concealment, but it's not going to protect you from bullets flying through. So don't believe that just because you've got a 6-inch wall between you and the people outside with the guns that you're safe. Sandbags work well. Sand-filled concrete blocks, cement blocks work well. They're not 100%, but if you want to, plan on that kind of stuff, if you feel the need, that's fine. But just know that your house walls are not going to protect you from things that want to come in. Brick, even if you have a brick home, brick isn't, it may stop small handgun calibers, but it's not going to stop high-powered rifle rounds from coming into your house. That was 10. I'm going to give you a bonus one. Have a watch guard type of plan in place ahead of time. If it's just you and your spouse, or maybe you have small children, there's going to be less of you. But maybe you have teenagers or something like that, and have it already. You can't stay awake all the time. And so you need to have a plan already in place of who's going to sleep and who's going to watch things. Because if it's a bad situation where you're really locked down, you need to have someone awake at all times watching. And it brings me kind of to this other part, is that all these things need to be done now. You need to plan for this kind of stuff now and not wait till after it's happened. Have everything in place, the equipment that you need, the tools that you need, but also the plan. Talk about it. Go over this plan with your family. It's no different than, planning for a tornado or planning for a fire. This is all part of it. To me, it's all the same plan. You have different, evacuation for tornado or fire, or where to go or where to hunker down. It's the same way with bugging in. It should all be connected. So, do some of these things, and I'm sure there's many other ideas out there. If you have some, please leave them in the comments so we can discuss them and add them to this list. This is not an exclusive, a complete list, but I've got to keep in mind for time for the videos. So continue to add to it in the comments, and let's get the discussion on the things that you need to do to protect yourself bugging in. All right, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.